Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong led the People's Republic of China from 1949 until his death in 1976. He authored poetry, much of which remains part of Chinese literature curricula. Mao's leadership period saw the reunification of China's territories and the development of national infrastructure. Following his rule, China was not invaded by any foreign power. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin, before entering politics, published several poems in Georgian literary journals. His early works were included in anthologies and are still archived in state collections. Although he later banned many forms of artistic expression, these early poems have been studied in Georgian literature. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler's government initiated one of the earliest public campaigns against smoking. The regime funded research linking tobacco use to cancer and heart disease. These findings led to smoking bans in public transport, workplaces, and public buildings. While ideologically driven, these campaigns are referenced in public health history. Ivan IV the Terrible. Ivan IV ruled as the first Tsar of Russia. Despite episodes of political repression, he established the Moscow Print Yard, Russia's first printing press, and opened trade routes with England and Persia. He also funded the construction of churches and supported painters and architects during his reign. Kim Jong-il. The Korean media and official publications credit Kim Jong-il with composing operas such as Sea of Blood, which were later performed domestically and in parts of China. He also reportedly authored The Art of Opera, which outlines North Korea's approach to musical drama. These claims are widely cited within North Korean cultural doctrine, though not independently verified. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan enforced a policy of religious tolerance across the Mongol Empire. Historical sources indicate that Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and others were allowed to practice freely. Clergy were exempted from taxation, and religious institutions were protected during conquests. Saddam Hussein. During Saddam Hussein's presidency, Iraq implemented a national healthcare system, offering free hospital care to its citizens. Additionally, the government introduced a widespread literacy campaign in the 1970s. UNESCO recognized Iraq's efforts, reporting that primary school enrollment reached nearly 100%, and adult illiteracy significantly declined during that period. Muammar Gaddafi. During Gaddafi's rule, Libya operated under a state-controlled economy that offered free healthcare, education, and housing. The country maintained zero external debt and increased its literacy rate from approximately 25% in 1969 to over 80% by the early 2000s. Reports from his residence included a scrapbook with photographs of U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, which became public after the fall of his regime. Emperor Hirohito. Emperor Hirohito, Japan's longest-reigning monarch, was involved in marine biology and botany throughout his life. He authored and co-authored numerous peer-reviewed scientific papers, and several marine species were classified under his supervision. His contributions were acknowledged in academic journals during the 20th century. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte enacted the Napoleonic Code in 1804. This civil code abolished feudal privileges, emphasized property rights, and established equality before the law for male citizens. It served as a model for legal systems in countries across Europe, Latin America, and parts of the Middle East and Asia. The code is still reflected in French civil law today. Jim Jones. Jim Jones, founder of the People's Temple, led over 900 followers in a mass suicide in 1978. Before this event, he was publicly active in civil rights, promoted racial integration, and served as director of the Indianapolis Human Rights Commission in the 1960s. He also opposed nuclear proliferation and conducted welfare programs through his church. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, prior to his arrest, volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline in Seattle during the early 1970s. According to coworkers, he often engaged in extended calls aimed at preventing self-harm. His ability to communicate empathetically was noted in interviews conducted after his conviction. Adolf Hitler. In 1933, the government of Nazi Germany passed the Reich Animal Protection Act. It prohibited animal cruelty, limited vivisection, and regulated slaughter methods. Hunting regulations were introduced, requiring licenses and setting hunting seasons. Fishing methods like live bait and certain traps were restricted. In 1935, the Reich Nature Protection Act was enacted. It enabled the state to protect natural landscapes, endangered species, and designated conservation areas. The laws introduced concepts such as buffer zones, landscape conservation, and environmental planning at a national level. These environmental policies were among the first of their kind implemented on a national scale in the 20th century. Osama bin Laden, the most wanted terrorist in the world. Osama funded the construction of roads, schools, hospitals, and other critical infrastructure in Sudan and Afghanistan. Interestingly, he also had a copy of Super Mario Brothers on his computer, along with a video titled Funny Cat Video, and even a clip of himself singing Lady Gaga's Poker Face. Sounds unbelievable, right? But did you know he also had some surprising, even good habits? Despite having a lot of money, he lived a very simple life. He wore plain clothes, ate basic food, and stayed away from luxury. He was known to be very disciplined, following a strict daily routine. He didn't talk much, and usually spoke politely and calmly with people around him. Pablo Escobar. During the 1980s, Pablo Escobar, leader of the Medellin cartel, financed several public welfare projects in Colombia. Escobar funded the construction of housing projects for low-income residents. One of the most well-known is Barrio Pablo Escobar, built on land he provided in Medellin. He also financed the building of sports fields, medical centers, and community infrastructure. These projects were concentrated in underdeveloped urban areas. Escobar's network distributed food, cash, and supplies to local families, especially in areas where state presence was limited or absent. Benito Mussolini, prior to his political career, worked in the field of education. He held a position as a school teacher and, for a brief time, served as a headmaster. During his tenure as the leader of Italy, school attendance rates increased. His administration introduced educational reforms aimed at expanding access to schooling, particularly in rural and underdeveloped regions. These reforms included efforts to promote literacy and standardize the national curriculum, as part of a broader initiative to shape a more uniform and centralized education system. In addition to his political and professional background, Mussolini had musical training. He began playing the violin during his childhood and continued the practice into adulthood, reportedly achieving a level of notable proficiency. Julius Caesar, despite his role in the extensive military campaigns, achieved notable reforms, created the Julian calendar, which became the basis for our modern calendar system, and solved chronic timekeeping problems, extended Roman citizenship to people in Gaul and other provinces, promoted legal equality, and reformed debt laws to help ordinary citizens, initiated major construction projects including forums, basilicas, and infrastructure improvements that benefited Roman citizens, redistributed land to veterans and poor citizens, addressing inequality and providing opportunities for advancement, generally respected local customs and religions in conquered territories rather than forcing complete Romanization. These achievements occurred within the context of his military conquest that resulted in an estimated 1 million deaths and his undermining of Roman democratic institutions. Al Capone. During the Great Depression, gangster Al Capone opened one of the first private soup kitchens in Chicago. In 1931, Capone's soup kitchen on 9th and State Street served over 2,000 meals per day, including soup, bread, and coffee, to the unemployed and homeless. The kitchen operated daily and was funded directly by Capone's organization. It served people regardless of age, background, or employment status. Local newspapers covered the effort, noting it was one of the few reliable sources of food at the time for many Chicago residents. The soup kitchen ran until Capone's imprisonment in 1932. Its operations stopped shortly after. Pol Pot, the name that brings fear even today. But did you know some of his intentions were actually meant to improve his country? He wanted to turn Cambodia into a place where everyone was equal. No rich, no poor, just people working together side by side. Pol Pot believed that manual labor and farming were the purest forms of work. He dreamed of a country that was self-reliant, free from foreign control or Western influence. His government tried to bring education, healthcare, and production directly to the rural areas. But his methods were so extreme and violent, they destroyed everything. Maybe he thought he was building a better future, but in the end, his way of doing it led to one of history's darkest chapters. It shows us a harsh truth. Even good intentions, when carried out the wrong way, can lead to disaster. Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, who has led North Korea since 2011, has implemented several notable policies. Economic reforms, allowed private markets to operate more openly, and permitted small-scale private trade, providing some economic flexibility for citizens. Infrastructure development, built ski resorts, water parks, apartment complexes, and modernized Pyongyang's infrastructure, including new subway stations. Inter-Korean relations, participated in joint Olympic events with South Korea in 2018, and opened communication channels between the two Koreas. Education and technology, promoted science education, established new universities, and emphasized computer literacy programs. COVID-19 response, implemented early strict border closures in January 2020, which North Korea claims helped prevent COVID-19 transmission, though these claims remain disputed. These policies occurred within North Korea's authoritarian system, which maintained strict political control, limited freedoms, and significant human rights concerns that affect the daily lives of North Korean citizens. Fidel Castro, who led Cuba from 1959 to 2008, implemented several notable policies and achievements during his tenure. Healthcare system. Castro established a comprehensive universal healthcare system that provided free medical care to all Cuban citizens. Cuba developed one of the world's highest doctor-to-patient ratios and achieved infant mortality rates comparable to developed nations' education. The government eliminated illiteracy through nationwide literacy campaigns, achieving a literacy rate of over 99%. Education became free at all levels, including university, making Cuba one of the most educated populations in Latin America. Medical diplomacy. Cuba became known for sending medical professionals to assist in disaster relief and healthcare missions worldwide, including efforts in Africa, Latin America, and following natural disasters.